emotional, coming of age, dramatic, and nostalgic. Sounds pretty intriguing, right? Dawsons Creek, a show filled with all things 90s. I'm talking about camcorders, Beanie Babies, chokers, and MTV, the epitome of American youth culture. That got me thinking, are we still experiencing the same things? Do we act the same way, think the same way, and even value the same things? Watching Dawsons Creek through a sociological lens, we see how the show reflects the cultural norms and values of the late 90s, especially in the way it portrays things such as relationships, gender, race roles, and the evolution of technology as well as fashion. Using theories like symbolic interactionism, we see how these representations have shifted over time and what that says about society's evolution. A good example of symbolic interactionism in this show is through two characters, one named Pacey and one named Miss Jacobs. And today cancel culture is very prominent and it's very common among the youth of America. We cancel people for many things, whether that's toxic behavior, abuse, and even things like cougars. In episode 1 of Dawsons Creek pilot, one of the main characters, Pacey, a young 15-year-old boy, falls for a 30 to early 40-year-old woman who enters the store he works at. They kind of flirt, just some playful banter, and as the episode progresses, he later finds out that once the school year starts, it's the first day of school. She is his new teacher. This is where the symbolic interactionism comes into play. Throughout the first episode, the relationship between Pacey and Miss Jacobs is heavily focused on. Pacey calls his relationship with her romantic, real, and fresh. Society today would label it as predatory, sexual, and just outright disgusting. I mean, imagine a 15-year-old boy with a 40-year-old woman. That is so weird. With symbolic interactionism, we can see in the With symbolic interactionism, we can see in the methodological implications of symbolic interactionism, where they state a social relationship is defined as any situation where two or more persons symbolize one another in distinct terms and sustain and display those symbolizations through their interactional encounters. They may occur with physically absent others or with those an actor sees on a routine co-present basis. Pacey sees Miss Jacobs as a desirable, mature woman, not a predator, as we today would see it as. Miss Jacobs sees Pacey as a mature boy for his age. Mind you, he is 15 years old. That's like a sophomore in high school. No. They use these ideals in their head to justify their highly inappropriate relationship. They're literally creating symbols of each other that don't align with objective reality. Those symbols equal how they define their relationship to themselves and the world. Going back to the quote saying, they may occur with physically absent others, blah, 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 blah. We can tie this in with how Pacey's self-image, like how he feels super manly and confident for pulling a woman of such high power and so much older than him. We can see how his self-image is shaped based on how society would react even when they're not technically present. And I think we can see that that's why he takes so much pride in being with an older woman, because he thinks that others in society would praise him as well. Moving on. Obviously speaking, the culture of teenagers today is significantly different than the late 90s. I mean, come on, it's not like you're gonna hear Dawson say, "This is so skibbity." Anyways, throughout this episode, we can clearly see non-material culture being represented. Non-material aspects of culture states that non-material culture is then the ideological system created by the members of a culture to explain the world and their existence in it. religion, social, economic, and political philosophies, and the institutionalized practices they support, the social relationships and technology underlying them are the material aspects of a living culture. During the first few minutes of the episode, we see this being represented when Joey, one of the other main characters in the episode, who's also a 15-year-old girl, she tells Dawson that she needs to stop sleeping over at his house due to the fact that they are getting older and they're teenagers. And why, might you ask? Well, Dawson thought the same thing because, they're just friends. However, according to Joey, it gets to a point in life where boys and girls can't just be platonic because someone will always end up having feelings or some sort of attraction towards one another. And that's just something the culture of teenagers valued and believed in. This can also tie back into symbolic interactionism, as their sleepovers in that room represent their innocence, but also growing up and crossing into adulthood. Another thing that stood out was the major differences in technology and the way we interacted with each other back then and now. Dawson and Pacey work in a video store that rents out VHS tapes. And me personally, I just think it's really crazy to see how people had to go out of their way, whether it was inconvenient or not, just to watch whatever movie or show they wanted to. Whereas now, we have television at the tip of our fingers. I mean, just one click into Netflix and bam, you can watch Squid Game wherever and whenever. On top of that, going to the movie theater was very common. Not that it isn't as common as today, but nowadays, people usually go to the movies out of fun, as we can just be in the comforts of our own homes watching almost any movie from our couch. In Technology, Social Change, and Liberty, the ethics of regulating new technologies, they state that the implementation of technologies often shapes social patterns, imposing new forms of behavior on its members, depriving them of opportunities and creating coercive life situations. We can see how technological determinism is shown due to the fact of how much technology they had back then and then how much we have now. And because of that, people then were having genuine conversations. People were truly socializing with each other rather than just being on their phone, texting and calling, or not being truly present where they are when they're with a group of people. And I think that is something we should really bring back because, sometimes when I'm at school and I'm having a conversation with someone, we'll be talking and they'll pull up their phone, start texting, look back at me, text, and I just think having that boundary is really crucial to the way we interact with each other. And we can see how interacting and meeting people is so much more intriguing and exciting when it's in person and you're not hiding who you truly are behind a screen. Something else I would like to point out is how strongly religion is being mentioned in just the first episode of the show. The new girl in town named Jen just moved into her extremely religious grandmother's house to help out her grandpa, who is basically on his deathbed. And Jen, she went from having the freedom of being a city girl, doing whatever she wants, to having to follow small town morals and beliefs, but that's just not the life she strives to have. Jen asked her grandma what she knows about the kids on her street, such as Joey and Dawson. And because neither of them go to church, according to her grandma, that makes them bad, misbehaving children. And as her grandma keeps pushing her religious ideals onto her, Jen keeps saying she's an atheist, and her grandma clearly does not respect her decisions at all. In religion and socialization among children, it is said that in socialization, the older populations tend to believe an assumption that 1. The religious family provides a happier childhood. 2. It makes children more self-confident. 3. It offers them broader social opportunities. 4. Is more concerned about education. And 5. Exhibits a more active paternal role. As she's in the older population, it is understandable, and as a religious person myself, I can totally see what she means, and she's not wrong. But I feel like this kind of reflects the stigma that elderly do not like to respect the youth's beliefs because they are too woke. Overall, the show, it was really great. It was really entertaining, and I was compelled to keep going and watch more, but there are still a few things I was like, First of all, the diversity is sparse. I seriously cannot recall any person of color in the show, and this was the first episode that kind of is supposed to show what the whole entire series is going to be about. It was strictly just white people. And I guess it kind of makes sense because of the place they live in. It's really just a white town, But there was just one person, and low-key, the show made sure to make it clear that this was the only person of color in the show. Joey's sister is going to get married, but they made sure to let it be known that it was a black man. They were saying things like, your sister's black boyfriend, or my sister's black boyfriend. That kind of language was just heavily used, and it was said that it was really just kind of out of the ordinary that she's marrying a black man. They really emphasized the word black. I just thought it was really weird, and it was just a little bit offensive, because why are they not addressing him by his name? Why aren't they calling him just her sister's boyfriend? Why does it have to be her black boyfriend? Well, after doing some research, I found that this is called racialization. They're implying that his race is the most important thing about him, and that his presence in the family dynamic is just unusual. If we put this in the lens back into symbolic interactionism, we can see how repeated labels shape perception and reinforce racial boundaries. In the article, Symbolic Interactionism, Post-Structuralism, and the Racial Subject, they state that race results in a performance, a set of performative representations shaped on those spaces where language, gender, ideology, media, and experience meet. I don't know, I just think it's pretty odd if you asked me, just the whole race thing and making it known that her boyfriend is just black, and that's just the only thing that he comes with. It's just the fact that he's a person of color, not that he's nice and he's kind and he's this and that. No, it's just that he's her black boyfriend. I just thought that was really odd, but nevertheless, if we disregard that one thing, I think the show was really cute. What really attracted me was the dynamic of women in this show, because back then women were really looked down upon, especially younger women. So to see women such as Joey and Jen stand up to themselves and put into such high power, it was really refreshing to see, and I just really liked it, especially knowing how other shows back then portrayed women. I think it was really it was just really nice to see, and it was pretty good overall, and I had fun watching it. I don't think I ever got bored, and I was really interested the whole entire time. I just sat there, I ate my snacks, and I was just watching. I was laughing. It was really fun, and I think I would rate it an 8 out of 10. Great reviews. This assignment was really fun. I'm sorry, I'm a really fast talker, and I was really excited to make this video. I just thought that the whole entire show was really interesting, and being able to tie it into sociology was just really interesting to me. It was really fun, and yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you didn't get bored or that it wasn't too long. So yes, thank you so much. Bye.